Welcome back, everybody. Today we have Jared back on the pod. Jared, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime. So today, one of the things that I really wanted to talk about with you is your fairly unique background because let's call a spade a spade. Most people I work with don't have the same background as you. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about your background and then how you've kind of gone from operations to marketing and how to succeed on Amazon. So that's what I would like to get into. But before we get into that, why don't you give people who are listening to this podcast a little bit of a background on who you are and kind of how you ended up here?
Yeah, so background in just like business in general is pretty much none when I started. So I joined the army about a year out of I did a year of college after high school and just went in and ended up doing 8 on active duty and then another 5 on the reserve side. And so operations is sort of where I learned that's where I sort of learned operations was through the army. And I mean, it started as just like being, having a supervisor and then becoming one and then taking different roles at different like echelons or tiers I guess to put it in a more what we would call civilian language. And then yeah, once I got out, I transitioned into our family business and everything just really took off from there. But yeah, most of my operation stuff I attribute to the military, to learning it there. And the only real skill that was applied once I got out was learning how to take, the base knowledge there and apply it in a different position and apply it to all different like whether it be marketing, accounting, overall business strategy, anywhere. Um and yeah, that's essentially how it went. Because my last job on active duty, which is probably the most heavy operations involved, is I was what was called a school non-commissioned officer. So that's just enlisted side. And I did this at the organization level was about 650 people or so. Uh, yeah. So and this was out of Germany. So I was in charge of like making sure the the smaller units under me got all their paperwork submitted, and then I had my computer systems. I enrolled people in, and I would send them to sometimes it may just be, half mile up the road. Sometimes it may be back to the United States. Sometimes it may be to a different country in Europe. And just coordinating all of that with people downstream of me and people upstream of me. That's where I really hit my stride with operations, I would say.
Sounds incredibly complex. And yeah, very busy to say the least.
Yeah, it's it honestly it wasn't that bad. But I do remember like having dreams. I had my Excel trackers uh, of everyone going here, there, and everywhere. And the only way, the most common way to enroll people still in schools is their social security number. So I remember like going to sleep and just seeing my trackers, and I'd have people come in, and I'd have like typically I can look up by like their last four of their social, but I had like a lot of their their numbers memorized completely, which was kind of scary for them. Don't remember them now, but they now transition to a different system of doing it. Uh, but
Wow.
yeah,
Okay. That's just
yeah.
just a little scary, but it's all good. Okay. So you had a pretty robust experience in military life.
Mhm.
How did you start to transition into get it like selling on Amazon and starting to focus on, the operations and marketing side of an Amazon business?
Yeah, it was kind of like an interesting jump because I moved back from Germany in summer of 2020 so COVID was still like full full strength, especially in Europe. Uh, Stayed full strength for like 2.5 years after the US finally called everything good. But I went to work for Verizon or through an authorized retail dealer of through Verizon. Worked for them through a little bit. Um, it was just like working with high schoolers, but I learned enough about sales and offers there in the 2.5 months. Learned also that I didn't like that part.
Yeah.
Um, but then I went and ran and worked for there's a they call it like a project manager for a tree company.
Mm,
I was really just driving around visa workers because I had a U.S. driver's license and collecting payment, and just managing them, and stayed there until I got COVID from a forced party from them, and yeah, and so at that point I was still just dating my wife, and so once I got COVID and they wanted me to still come into work with COVID, I left them, I came into the family business's warehouse and was like just kind of blown away by the lack of organization. And I was like, I can make a difference here. And so that's where I started, built eBay my first year, optimized it the next year, um, which ended up being a very large channel. The first couple of years, I think the first year we did like 60K in revenue. Next year we did K, and yeah, on eBay.
wow.
Yeah, I was just flipping old inventory, primarily like Legos, Beanie Babies is mostly what I was doing. And then next year, I think 2022, Walmart.com got big or started. Wouldn't say
Mhm.
it's big yet, even, but I set all that up, started running ads on there, and then after I had those 2 years of experience under my belt, Amazon was the next step to like invest myself into learning. Um,
Yeah, of course. Well, and there's so much that can really go into an Amazon business. How did your operations experience start to help you? Like you've got so many different facets. Like what were some of the things
yeah.
you did?
Um, so my typical model really was I would sit back and observe, figure out things I thought could be like go smoother, how to do them. I test those on myself and then think about how to build those systems out for other people to use, at least within our business. So if we had a new employee come in, I'd sit there too and watch them, see how they worked. And then even though I had a working system in place versus teaching them a system that was currently working for us, I may revamp the system uh, to where it's optimized for their mental capacity or physical capacity or whatever the changing landscape was. So it was a lot through observation, even like with agencies, taking every single spam call from somebody doing to hop on a on a sales call to try and sell me a software or a service or something like that. I take every single one, and just like with listening to a podcast, sometimes you just gather tidbits, and then you find a way to glue all those tidbits together to build a system, and then I just start doing it and trial by error. Some lessons are learned hard. Those are usually the best ones, but some lessons just came out to be total success from the start.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you guys have been able to scale your Amazon business quite substantially. What were some of those early wins? Like, what were some of the things you guys did that started to really have a big impact on the business?
I think honestly, trying to do everything ourselves at first helped a lot, even though we failed a lot at doing it. So I think the first 6 months of launching, we ran our own PPC, but we had PPC coaching. My wife really ran PPC at that point, but I would still get every coaching call. I'd read their SOPs. I'd read her SOPs. We talk back and forth about different SOPs we build. And by SOPs, I just mean like with Amazon marketing, you know, I think there's a basic SOP where everyone thinks they can do it. Like if this happens, you do this, or here's how to run all these different types of ad placements, whether it's sponsored product with auto exact broad phrase or sponsored brand, sponsored display, etc. But I would just consider that to be like that's a basic SOP, but it's not necessarily like you don't have to be doing all those things. You probably shouldn't be doing like running every single placement type. And so just working through all that, learning how to do all those things, then handing them off, and then we were able to slowly take some of it back and then figure out exactly what we wanted to do. The thought process now is I make a hire for stuff I can do but don't want to do, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's
Yeah.
incredibly logical.
Yeah.
What's your big opportunity for you? It seems like one of the big things is systems thinking. You know,
Yeah.
you can take a big mess and turn it into a functioning system
Yeah.
that requires coordination, that requires other people, but most importantly, that requires thinking about how to use other team members effectively and how to
Yeah.
coordinate all that. So it
Yeah.
sounds like that's been one of those key things that has helped you guys grow on Amazon. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And and I'll also say like I come back every year, through different parts of the year. And even if I have like a perfectly if even if I have like a perfectly functional system that's working, I still go back and I dedicate it brain power and thought and time and experimentation to seeing how I can further refine it. So it's not like a set it and forget it type of thing. I mean, I do that with our marketing, our accounting, our offers, our product lines, uh, how we take out the trash. Every
Wow. Okay. Is that something you got from the military, like a constant review process?
Yeah, because the military, there was a. I'm gonna probably butcher this for anybody that's fresh out of the military, but that you'd
Hmm.
have the smallest like methodology um, for military planning is it's called like the eight troop leading procedures, and it's like receive the mission, uh, issue a warning order, which is like a quick synopsis of a summary of what you're going to do, make a tentative plan, start movement. And then it's reconnaissance. So that would be like educating yourself in the Amazon space or scope out competitor research, keyword research. So there's RIMS. There's an acronym called RIMS are cool in summer. But then like that is there's a few more steps, but the last one, so I don't turn this into a long-winded story, is supervise and refine. So like everything you do, especially with Amazon and how fast everything changes, like there's so many variables. Like within Amazon, you have the human psychology and buying mentality. You have to continually refine your systems to make sure everything's still working. Because when you don't, that's when the stuff falls apart.
Yeah. I mean, don't you know it? Like, yeah, it can
Yeah.
be an absolute mess if you don't optimize everything constantly and be hyper vigilant about what needs to happen next in order for you to continue to grow on Amazon.
Yeah.
So, yeah, could not agree more. It's very important and it's very, very useful to be constantly refining what it is you're doing.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, so when it comes to kind of like, actually, let's go a bit of a different direction. One of the things that I have been impressed by when working with you and the team is you're quite good launching products. You're quite good at finding the products, refining the products, working with the team to understand what needs to change or how can we do better, and then eventually getting it to a point of launching. One of the things you mentioned is like this the 8 step thing. It
Yeah.
sounds like a really useful framework for thinking about launching a product.
Yeah.
Can you maybe talk a little bit about your mentality there because it is impressive?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the mentality behind new product launches, period, is just lots of data upfront. Uh, and so that's where, like, on our team, I'm very analytical. Every single one of us is very analytical, which is great, but you still have to have creativity in there because the data will only take you so far, but how that data is applied is typically where you find your success. So, I mean, we have a basic framework on, like, these are the products, like, or product pricing, like, minimum requirements. Like, if we wanted to use something like Black Box, I think that's isn't it,
Yeah,
helium-10 product?
helium-10 black box. Yeah,
I can't say we use it. We've
yeah.
tried it, but it's a good play. I think that's a good tool to start, like, for starting an Amazon business. But, yeah, the general framework is there on, like, here's the things we're looking for, and then making sure now that it fits within our niche because and I mean, this is something we've learned a lot, like, this past year is there's no point in launching, they're launching outside of your niche. There really isn't because unless you're only gonna confine yourself to Amazon, which is a very dangerous business model to be running an Amazon business full time and that being your only source of revenue. It's just something that worked, like, for a decade. At least I don't recommend it anymore. Maybe it still works for some people.
I think the shelf life for an Amazon only business is less than 2 years. And I think the majority of businesses that are not on Amazon or that are only on Amazon are either going to get off of Amazon or completely go out of business within 2 years. I think the timeline is quite short
Yeah.
because, and that's one of the key theses of spillover commerce is like Amazon's the bottom of the funnel for the internet, but it's not the only part of the funnel. And it's not the only place that people like to buy products. It's just the place that people trust shipping the most today.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
But yeah, to I guess come back and answer your question a little more thoroughly. So as soon as we find like a product within our niche, it's just date up front on the keyword research to see if it has enough volume to move and look at the competitive landscape and then build an offer that fits in there. And from there, it's just good images, good listing copy, um, and a good PPC launch strategy, honestly. And then making sure you have your review game in place and be willing to be willing and ready to have to adjust or deal with like blowing this blowing the competition out of the water and then them trying to retaliate sort of thing,
yeah.
which has happened a lot this past year, as you know.
Yes, it sure has. Although I would say we've been quite effective at doing it. So,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. Um, when it comes to I'm trying to think the right way to phrase this question, but basically, when it comes to your launch strategy, I mean, I think one of the if I had to define it in a word, I would say it's quite collaborative. I guess one of the things I was kind of wondering is what are you thinking about when it comes to a launch? Because you definitely take a very operations first approach to it. And so
Mhm.
I'm just kind of wondering like how are you looking to operationalize a launch because it's worked? And so I'm really just curious how you think about that because I think a lot of people in the audience would find that useful.
Yeah. I really just want to make sure I have all my ducks in a row for a launch on like logistically. So being like making sure I have my like cogs down in a good spot that I've already tested and vetted the product really, really well. And knowing my supplier turnaround times, knowing how long it's gonna right, that's from, like, how long does it take them to produce, how fast can Amazon get it there so that I don't run out of stock if this thing goes crazy, and then just making sure I have a good understanding of the PPC plan at that point, and then from there, during the launch operationally or on I guess during the initial, like, 30 to 60-day launch, timeframe, and it could be longer too, but I like to have at least in my own head, I like to have, like, a mental note made for myself, like, this is how much time this is how much time I'm willing to invest into launching this product, uh, and how much of a loss I'm willing to take because you should be expected to lose money during a launch. Soft launches can work depending on products, if I'm doing, like, a ranking product launch, I'm gonna lose a bunch of money up fast, but I just factor is I'm paying for data But I like to have a timeline set on that. So as soon as we're like nearing like the 30-day or 60-day mark, typically, I can go and look at my numbers and be like, all right, we've where are we at review wise? Where are we at? Like how much have we lost? And can we bring it down to break even to where it's going to be an incremental product, and just make a little bit of profit, not so I don't buy as many units next time, or am I just dropping completely? Or hopefully everything goes well and I'm buying a bunch more units for a restock, and just trying to mathematically approach how many units I buy to optimize storage fees, really.
And I mean, that's really where conversion rate forecasting comes in, right? Like that's one of those things that you and I kind of discovered together is if we can forecast the conversion rate and then compare ourselves to the competition, as long as we're hitting our conversion rate in the short term, long term, we should be able to win on Amazon because
Yeah,
there are efficiencies, there are there are profitability SKUs we can launch. There's all kinds of different things we can layer on to an existing product. But the one thing you can't just layer on is conversion rate. And so,
exactly.
yeah, that's been one of the things that coming out of 2025 may feel like a really simplistic statement, but the epiphany around conversion rate forecasting took me from moderately excited about the Amazon opportunity to certain that we had something great on our hands. And so,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree. That's been a big thing too, just from a planning perspective, because a lot of times when I was less involved in, I stayed less involved in the logistical and like reviewing if we could
Mhm.
make this a profitable product. And
Mm.
so it'd be like, okay, well, yes, I can. This is how much I should make per sale, but that's before PPC factored in. To now, I'm a lot, and I just focus on like SEO, listing creation side of it there, to where now I'm like, all right, with the conversion rates, I expect to have this conversion rate, and I always go conservative on like the lower end of the spectrum. So my hopes aren't too high to play in budget, and then I can have an accurate gauge now of like my conversion rate's going to be this, and the average CPC is this. I typically double what the average CPC is going to be for a launch, and yeah, just auto campaign skew the suggested bids. I feel like there's something in there
Yeah.
we don't get. The data doesn't seem as accurate as what you get from all the tools. Yeah, but that's been a game changer this year, is making sure you're factoring in essentially marketing budget.
Yeah. And I mean, we've got a couple of launches coming up. We've got one probably next week. You know, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not stressed. That's new for me, you know?
Yeah,
Usually when we're launching products, I'm like, "Okay, do we have everything in order? Do we have our keyword strategy set?" But these days, I have a clear path. I've got numbers we need to hit, and I've got clear set of directions we can go. If this, then that. If then that. And, yeah, I attribute a lot of it to working with you guys and a lot of it to your operational rigor. So, thanks.
yeah. Oh, it's been fun. Thank you too. It's a PPC on Amazon is a lot. Like I said, it's just one of those things. Like there's a base. You need to understand like these basic skills, and that's where I think like you see a lot of people that say they can run PPC do, but that's why I think they can run it. But there's so much of a creative process behind it, which almost like you said, you have, if this happens, I do this. It's just a basic like flow chart. If this happens, I do this,
Mhm.
and so you have to have that creative strategy carved out, and that's where it comes into like your strategy of like ranking product or incremental product, because you handle both of them completely different, uh, especially with Amazon like being you're devoid of being able to do like upsells and
Mm,
stuff like that you would on your
yeah.
website, you know?
or remarketing or
Exactly.
increasing your cart value. All the stuff that
Exactly.
we work on together on the Shopify side of things is just
Yeah.
like, yeah, nothing like that Amazon is available. And so, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Okay. Well, I really am so glad that you came on here. I hope the audience kind of took away a few different things, especially when it comes to I'd never heard of the army approach to making a plan
Mhm.
and the 8 steps. I'm probably going to research that on my own time because I found that incredibly interesting. So, thank you very much for being willing to talk about that.
Yeah.
Jared, where can people find you on the internet if they want to learn more about what it is you do and what you're up to?
Mostly on LinkedIn. I don't keep a very strong social media profile. I find most of it to be a waste of time. I only have Facebook still because somebody has to have a profile to run ads from.
Yeah. Well, somebody's got to have a profile. Plus, you're trying to make any marketplace deals, you still have to have it.
Yeah, been
Yeah.
getting a lot more recently too.
Well, look, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for being willing to share your experience. And yeah, for everyone else, until next time.